Hello, everyone. Um, I was having this thought of I've always been a very questioning person. Um, I grew up, um, mm, I grew up around some family members who are very religious. Um, so when I was younger, I went to church a lot. Um, went to like Sunday school, stuff like that. Um, I've always been very questioning, you know. I would question the teachings or um, what the priest or what the teacher would be telling us, those kinds of things. They usually don't like that very much, and they didn't. Um, but it's a part of who I am, and I think questioning is very important, especially when you get into any type of spirituality, um, and stuff like tarot and being an oracle or mediumship, stuff like that. I think it's very important to question. Um, very important to question. You can faith and hope are important, but you need something, right? You need something concrete. You need something physical, because if you're chasing these ideas, um, if you're chasing these ideas um, of like manifestation or the if you're chasing these ideas of manifestation or laws of attraction, like these things, right, that are very popular, like um, buzzwords and these all these things, right? If you're chasing these, but you don't, it's like trying to find a silver bullet. It's like trying to find an easy fix. It's like trying to find something that just makes life easy or whatever. Life isn't easy. For some people, it is. Some people are born into um, a life that is easy, but even those lives come with challenges. That an example I would think of is like someone born into a rich family, right, with a fortune. They don't have to work a day in their life, right? They're set up, you know. They would never have to live a day in their life. But there's always the classic story of generational wealth, especially at that scale, like fortunes, don't last very long, right? Because the kids will throw the money away. They'll live a very expensive lifestyle and they won't be able to keep up with it because they don't know how to work, or they don't know discipline. They don't know how to save money. They don't know what to do with money. And so the fortune that their family built gets thrown away. And that's an example of a challenge of someone born into what we would think as a privileged life, which it is, right? In many ways. It's a privilege to have the chance to throw away all your money, I guess. That is a privilege. And we may think someone very stupid for doing that. But also, they were never taught any better, right? A lot of the people like that, they grow up without much input from their parents, without much without anything from their parents, really. And I'm speaking in like generalities, right? You think about the average person who has an obscene, amount of money, or even a very good amount of money, right? It's because they work a lot, because they're making deals, because they're on top of their business, right? They genuinely work a lot and don't have a ton of time, right? And how did I start down that? Yes, the challenges of even what we would see as a privileged life, right? Everyone has their challenges and their lessons, and there's things to grow through and things that they could break, right? Like someone born in that position could learn self-discipline, right? They could learn it. It's whether they choose to or even think that they have a reason to, right? Whether they see the writing on the wall that, their money is slowly dwindling, but instead they choose instant gratification and say, well, that's a later me problem. And then eventually you become the later you, right? I started on this because there's this idea, just because you're doing something spiritual or religious doesn't mean you're doing something good. It also doesn't mean you're doing something good for yourself, right? Religion and spirituality can be very damaging. It can be very harmful. If handled incorrectly, if done incorrectly, if thought about in the wrong ways, if pursued in the wrong ways, right? It can be extremely damaging. Just because, and there's examples of this everywhere, right? I mean, very recently, a holy war, right? And with the Crusades, right? The Crusades. And there's a lot of problems in the Christian church. And there's a church, I've probably told the story before, but churches bragging about snuffing out homosexuality or spewing misogynistic views as if they're the views of higher creation or of a god or the God of the Christian faith. Trying to ascend or trying to move in a spiritual path without direction, without a moral compass, without really thinking about it, that's how cults get started, right? That's how cults get started. And it's no good. It's not a good thing. You have to have a strong standing in who you are, right? Some people find themselves through spirituality or their faith, right? And that isn't a bad thing necessarily, as long as they actually found themselves and not they just read a religious text and based their entire personality off of it, which some people do. And maybe that's their path. Maybe that's actually what they came here to do. I don't know. How can I know? But you have to know, right? You have to look within yourself and actually realize what you want out of your life and not do more harm to yourself or others than good, right? You always want to leave the world a better place than you found it. And in that, even leaving yourself better than, yesterday. Always trying to make something better for yourself. And whatever way you go about doing that, right? Learning, exploring, right? Reading books, going to college, right? Improving yourself, learning, expanding your knowledge, expanding, healing, right? Healing from like trauma or beliefs that don't really push you forward but keep you back, right? That keep you small. These are things that can be tackled in many different ways. There's not one way of doing any single thing. It all comes back to we are people, right? We're humans. Biologically, our brains and our bodies are not identical, but very, very similar. The female brain and the male brain have some differences, but those differences are only in the amount of neurons that are in certain places. And that leads to some differences in behavior. It also usually leads to different problems socially, different problems in your life, different whatever, right? And also the society that we live in creates different problems for women than it does for men, right? Honestly, it feels like, from my perspective, it seems like a very scary time to be a woman. I mean, there's still votes all the time of trying to ban abortion, trying to take control away from women over their own bodies and their autonomy, screaming that they're doing an immoral thing by not taking a 18-year responsibility, by not just accepting that, right? By not just accepting an 18-year money pit and, just like, oh yeah, raise a child. I don't care if that child's abused and not cared for, and because you don't have the time or the energy or the money. It would be better if that child came into the world and was fucked up, rather than you just saying it's not time right now. It's not time right now for this one. I wouldn't be able to do this child justice, right? Or you put a child into adoption, into foster care, and that horrible system fucks them up beyond comprehension. Those systems are terrible. They have been terrible for a very long time, and they do a lot of damage. Anyway. Trying to grow without a direction, without knowing what you're growing towards, without knowing what you want, right? Without knowing who you are, can be very bad because you don't know what you're growing into, right? You're just like, oh, something's changing, but maybe that isn't for the best, right? I think life is such a complex and nuanced thing that I'm personally very grateful for, to be alive at all and be able to experience it. And it's not easy. I've been through a lot, and it's taken a lot for me to get here, but I'm grateful for it every day. because there's a lot of good in the world, and there's a lot of fun to be had, and there's a lot of fulfillment that can be had too, and there's a lot of opportunity. And that can't be said for everyone, right? Not everyone has the same opportunities, not everyone. And realistically, everyone having the same opportunity is a pipe dream that's not very realistic, right? People are born with different sets of skills and different sets of skills and different things that they're good at, and a different makeup, right? Everyone our makeups make us good at certain things. And I think when we really find ourselves, we find what we're good at. And a lot of the time, what we're good at is what fulfills us, what gives us a sense of purpose, right? The things that we're really good at and we enjoy doing and we want to put time into are often what we end up doing with our lives, right? Committing ourselves to. You just have to find yourself first. And while I feel like there are many tangents in this video and many different paths I kind of went down here, a point I really want to drive home is just because something is spiritual or religious does not mean it is good. Does not mean it is good for you. Does not mean it is meant for you, right? You'll find your thing. You'll always find your thing if you try. If you keep trying, you will find yours, right? You'll find what you're meant to believe, you'll find, and it feels a lot more like it finds you, at least in my experience, but I don't think that's everyone's experience. Sometimes you have to go searching, for sure. But trust in your process and how you work and how you tick, because you're an individual and you're unique and you think differently. You have a different experience to everyone else around you, right? Even those closest to you, even those who grew up with you, their experience was different from yours, right? There may have been the same figures around you, but there were also different ones, right? Differing friend groups, different people, different experiences, right? No two people grow up exactly the same. It's actually found quite often. Twins that are raised in the same household turn out very different. And I mean, anyone who's met a pair of twins knows that, right? They usually do end up very different. Even though they have the exact same genetic makeup. The reason for that is the experience of the world, right? And what happens to them, and what they go after and what they chase, and the experiences that they have, the people that they talk to. It shapes us, it changes us fundamentally, and that's not a bad thing. Just make sure you're talking to the right things, and make sure you're looking at the right stuff, you know? Stuff that makes you better, not that makes you worse. I'm going to leave this one here. I hope this helped you, and hope to see you in the next one.